Hello and welcome to this month's edition of the NeoSystems 30-minute webinar series. Today's discussion will focus on what it means as Deltek Time and Expense 9.0.1 moves to sustaining support, along with some benefits of moving to Time and Expense 10. If you have any questions during the presentation, please enter them in the Q&A area, and we will get to as many of them as possible at the end of the webinar. Now I'd like to hand things over to our presenter, Susan Mitchell of NeoSystems. Susan?
Thank you. Hi, I'm Susan Mitchell. I am Vice President for Professional Services ERP Systems at NeoSystems, and we're going to be talking today about making the move to T&E 10. So the first thing I want to talk about is why upgrade to T&E 10. So as some of you know, the T&E 9 is currently scheduled to go into sustaining support in January of 2021. So what this means is that there's not going to be any new software enhancements, hot fixes, or service packs. So if you have an issue with the system right now, they wouldn't be they wouldn't be putting out any new service packs or anything that would take care of that issue in 9. You would have to, go to support and kind of try to get a workaround or something. The next reason is that there's seamless integration with CostPoint. So currently T&E 9, stands on its own. It's its own database kind of sitting off to the side. And T&E 10 actually is embedded into CostPoint. So it makes it kind of nice when you can just have that one login. It better positions you for your upgrade to CostPoint 8. So as many of you, some of you that are attending Insight next week know, CostPoint 8 is getting ready to come out with a lot of great features and things like that. So going to 10 will better position you to go to CostPoint 8 eventually. The other thing is that there's no more fear. So T&E 10 has been around since 2016. So, back in the early days, like, any new software, everybody always hears of these things, oh, these horror stories and stuff. Well, most of that, has essentially gone away now. So, T&E 10 it's very solid. It's been tested. Clients have used it. The other thing is Deltek provides an abundance of documentation and resources. So there's a lot of tools and things out there for you to help you if you have the time and the bandwidth to do it. You can go and do this on your own. And we'll talk about some of those resources today. There's improved upgrade utilities. So I know that some of my friends out there have heard, horror stories about, this upgrade, but the upgrade utility, from what we've seen in our experience and everything like that has come a long way. It works well. Deltek gives you kind of step-by-step how to do the technical piece of the upgrade. So, again, it's much more simplistic than when, it first came on the market. And then lastly, enhanced functionality. So there's all sorts of new and exciting things that come along with T&E 10 that will, that you want to be able to take advantage of. So in regards to that enhanced functionality, so it allows use of extensibility. So it used to be that with T&E 9, if you needed to do something, that wasn't, right out of the box in T&E, you would have to do like a stored procedure on the database, or you would have to do something like that. With T&E 10, you can now use extensibility because it's embedded in CostPoint, and extensibility allows you to basically do kind of these custom things. And if you upgrade and later on, say your CostPoint database, you can just kind of pick up that extensibility unit and then put it back on. The other thing with T&E 10 is it has enhanced security authentication options. So for those of you, we here at NeoSystems love CMMC. That's a very big thing for us. You'll know that security is a big deal right now for government contractors. So what I would tell you is T&E 10 has multi-factor authentication that comes with it. And it also has the ability to do mixed mode authentication. So what that means is that if you had, say, your employees you wanted to have authenticate one way and your subcontractors authenticate another, then you could have both of those authentication methods in the system. Also mobile time and expense. So there's been enhancements and things to that area. So, everybody wants to be able to do anything on their mobile device now. That's another great reason to go to T&E 10. It allows use of the expense wizard. So Deltek has come out with a fabulous kind of what I'll call kind of a shortcut, to the expense report. It's much more user friendly and things like that. So it allows, so T&E 10 brings that expense wizard with it. And then also processes surrounding correcting timesheets. So this one I always like to point out, because if you've ever had a closed period on a timesheet and you've had an employee that comes up and says, has to do a correction for that, you have to open it back up for all the employees, and then it opens, that timesheet period, and people can go back in and make changes. People you didn't meet needed changes, and then you kind of have this whole process you're going through. With TE10, you can now, the employee now requests, there's a request process to open that period, and that only that employee can go and access that period. So that's a nice feature for those of you, that have dealt with some of that. So that's just like one of the functionalities, but that's one of the nice things coming. So then let's talk a little bit about documentation. So Deltek provides toolkits and guides to assist you. And when I say that, they provide toolkits and guides. So this very first one that that I kind of highlighted here, where it says Deltek time and expense, documentation list. Most of you CostPoint users out there will have access to your Deltek Knowledge Center. And under your Knowledge Center, there's this fabulous thing called the Deltek time and expense 10 documentation list. So when you go under that, there literally every document that you could possibly want on time and expense 10 is out there. There's release notes, there's upgrade utility worksheets. There's all sorts of things. So what I would tell you is your first stop, would be to go and look at what's out there for you, okay? So I just want you to know that these documents are there. So just to give you an example, so like one of the documents that's out there is the expense wizard. So we were just kind of talking about that. So this is the expense wizard document. So as you can see for T&E 10, it actually will walk you through, how to do the expense wizard. So it kind of gives you the highlights. It tells you, how do you get there, that kind of thing. So these are great documents that you can use when you're doing your, when you're kind of planning your T&E 10 upgrade. Okay. Then we also have the other thing I would tell you, and these are just kind of some other, kind of ones that are in there. There's the technical installation guide. There's actually like a mobile time and expense user guide. There's great tools out there. So what I would tell you is take advantage of them. The other thing I would tell you is, Google T&E 10. So, earlier, like back in, when it first came out, there wasn't a lot of documentation and things out there on it. But if you go out there, and just Google stuff, there is a lot of useful materials for you. So I would tell you, take a look out there. And again, this is for those of you that, want to do this on your own and that kind of thing, just know that the stuff is there for you. Then, so I do want to talk a little bit about the gotchas. So as we've gone through these, T&E 10 upgrades, there's a few things that we here at NeoSystems have kind of learned. And if you are getting ready to, go on this adventure of doing your T&E 9 to T&E 10 upgrade, we kind of just want to point these out to you. So the first one is more of a technical perspective, and it would be make sure CostPoint patching is up to date and in sync with the T&E 10 version. So what this means is that you just need to make sure, since T&E is coming in from, kind of a, things are kind of merging together, even though it's still a separate, it's still a separate database, there are patching and things that must be in sync. And if those aren't, it will cause you problems as you're going through your upgrade process. The next one I would say, this is again, it's technical and functional, but follow steps. If Deltek gives you a checklist, use it. They're out there to help you. So in some cases, if we say we're helping somebody from a technical perspective, do their upgrade, and they were having an issue or something, what we found was that it was, they skipped a step, they didn't think they had to do something. So I would just tell you, follow the steps, use the checklist. The next thing I would say is additional steps may be needed when changing authentication method to Active Directory during the upgrade. So in some cases, when you're changing to that, there's sometimes a scripting that is needed to basically put in those Active Directory IDs and things like that so that the system knows, that information. So just, that's kind of like another step that you would need to add that sometimes isn't in the standard checklist, but you just need to know it's there. The other thing is scheduled jobs from T&E 9 have to be set up in the job server and cost point for T&E 10. So, T&E 9 has the great thing where you can schedule jobs and things like that. When you upgrade, those will go away. Those don't convert over or anything like that. So what you have to do is you just have to know before your upgrade, here's all our scheduled jobs, and this is what we're gonna have to schedule once we go to T&E 10 via the job server. And it's the same, process that you normally do in cost point for any other job server jobs. But you just have to, know you have to do that. Then the other one I would tell you is pay close attention to users previously set up in cost point before the upgrade. So this is for most of you accounting and finance folks who are already set up in cost point as users. So when the upgrade process will convert, it's going to want to convert, employees and things like that. So there's just a little bit of a process that you need to go to for those users that already exist. Okay. Then the next one we have is test the upgrade process. So this seems so simplistic, but you always want to just at least run through a test just to make sure, it's a very, like I said, they have this down to a kind of a science now with checklists and everything like that, but you'd still want to go through the test process on your database just to make sure, you don't have some other random thing that comes up. Training. So for this upgrade, this will affect your entire employee population because it affects timesheets and expense reports, the things that your employees use pretty much every day if you're a government contractor. So don't underestimate your training, communicate with your employees, get the emails out, do these things, relatively soon. Then we have, so the other gotcha, our last one, is underestimation of level of effort and time. So what I would say is that everyone just kind of will say, oh, it's just T&E, that kind of thing. Plan it out, look at the timelines, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So what I wanted to give you all is just kind of how when we go through an implementation or an upgrade, sorry, not an implementation, when we go through an upgrade, how we kind of like our kind of high level project plan items are. So we start with planning the upgrade. So when I say that, there's a few things that go into that, especially since we're at September 10th and we're kind of coming up on, November, December, Thanksgiving holidays, end of the year holidays, all these kind of things. So when you're planning your upgrade, you want to avoid problematic dates. So, such as month-end close, holidays, like things just kind of, take into account, be realistic about the schedule. The second thing is confirm at the beginning what authentication method will be, confirm what the authentication method will be after the upgrade. So essentially, is it going to be, Active Directory, like how's it going to work? And then identify your key users and testers. So what I always will tell clients with this is select, kind of your best tester. And when I say that, it's the tester that's going to do everything that you want them to do and be very thorough. And then select your squeaky wheel. So the person that always has an issue with their timesheet or you're always resetting their password or something like that, because that's the person that's going to kind of troubleshoot the system for you and ask all the questions ahead of time that that any of your other users will. So then you're very prepared with your frequently asked questions or anything. Then the next one is you run the upgrade process. So that's, go through, basically run the technical piece of it and everything. You go through the post-upgrade process checklist. So what that is that's more from a functional perspective, and it's the things that have to happen once your technical team has done that upgrade process. So it's, confirming the security roles and making sure that everybody, came over correctly, review the setting screens, make sure that there's, nothing funny, or anything happened during the upgrade process. It shouldn't, and I haven't seen that in a while, but again, always just check it. Confirm file locations, because sometimes, you have to, and, just confirm that your import, export locations and everything have been set up in the alternate file locations, and then set up the job server. So we talked a little bit about that earlier. Then your next step is to test the system. So again, that's, go through, put it through the paces. I always like to tell people, choose employees from different employee classes, to test those timesheets so that you kind of get a wide variety and that you're checking the pay type, all the various pay types and things like that. Then the next item is you revise your upgrade process as needed to account for items found during testing. So essentially anything that you found that was a hiccup in that process, to correct for that when you go to do your upgrade to production. Then the next item, determine how training will be delivered. So this one is an interesting thing in what I will say in the YouTube age, because, a lot of times people want to just go out and pull up a YouTube video. So how will your training be delivered? Will it be synchronous versus asynchronous? Will there be formative assessments versus summative assessments? And that means, formative means during the training, will they be asked questions so that that they're taking it in, or will it be, questions at the very end, the summative assessment? And then what's the platform that you'll be using for the training? So will it be PowerPoint? Will it be live demo? Will it be recorded video? Will it be screencast-o-matic? Like all these various, methods that you can do this. And then schedule your go live date. So, once you've kind of gotten through the testing, sometimes you have to adjust a date, or something based on whatever your testing presents. Then you'll, will schedule your go live date. And then your user training and communication. So send an email well in advance, letting them know, like, people don't like surprises. So what I would tell you is get that email out that lets them know, hey, this is coming, prepare yourself kind of thing, because people will react better to the change. Training should be done as close to the go live date as possible for best results. So what we've seen, and this usually when I see this kind of, it's an interesting thing, is when people, usually that end of the year time frame, if there's say a 1/1 go live, January 1st go live, and people want to train like on the 15th before people start to take vacation and stuff like that. Well, what happens is they train and then the users come back and they can't remember how to do their timesheet or anything like that. So what I would tell you is train them. It's even better in that case to train them like the day they get back, or have that video out there that they can go access. So just keep that in mind. And then clear communication about how to get assistance after go live. That's a key part of your communication to your employees, is that how, if they can't figure it out and they've gone through the trainings and everything like that, how do they get support? So that's the other, that's kind of another main item, is basically, what do they do? And then, so what I'll tell you is if you get, knowing everything that I told you, like I've shown you where you can go and access these things yourself and everything like that. And some companies will come back to us and just say, I don't have time for this. We're doing an acquisition. We have this going on. There's always there's always something going on with everybody. They'll come back and they'll say, please just help us with this. So what we have at NeoSystems is we have kind of a program that we do for T&E 10, and we can do so we can do all of the items that we have listed on here. We can do a la carte items. So some people will say, I think we're good with the testing. Can you just help us with the technical piece? So we'll help with the technical piece. Or some just want, because we have a really great training resource named Christy Fast here at NeoSystems, but she does really great training and communication plans for people. And she does she helps them with their change management. And since T&E 10 has such a huge piece of that, like she does a really good job with that. So what I would tell you is this is kind of like our, program that we use. But again, it's going through going through those steps that I discussed earlier. So again, if you have, any, assistance, need any assistance or anything like that, please reach out. So what I will tell you, that pretty much wraps up our presentation for now. If you have any questions or anything after this, I know Dawn's going to turn it over so we can start looking at some of the questions. But if you have any that you think of after this, please feel free to email the te10@neosystemscorp.com, and we will, get back to you with that.
Thanks, Susan. So as she mentioned, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, you can use that Q&A button to enter those questions, and we'll give you just a moment or two to do that. Susan, one question that had come in previously was kind of maybe an open question, but generally how long would a time and expense 10 upgrade take? I know there's a lot of factors that go into that, but how can you kind of provide a little bit of insight into that?
So what I would tell you is it's based more on number, it's based more on number of employees and kind of complexities of usage of the system. So as an example, so a company that may have, say, if they had 10,000 employees, right, that would be kind of a longer, kind of how should I say, lead time that would be needed for, a company of that size. If it was a company of 50 employees, that might be, a little bit different. So the actual upgrade process, the technical piece of it, usually I think takes about, 4 to 8 hours, just depending, on how long. But then it's the testing, it's kind of working out the testing schedule, working that into everybody's kind of daily lives and things, and then doing the trainings. So the training is really what I have seen in my experience. The training is kind of the long pole in the tent that has to, you have to hit all of these, users and things like that.
Great, thank you. We have a couple more questions or comments that have come in. One is, this person's not looked at time and expense yet, but they're wondering if they can make their own expense wizards.
No. The expense wizard, so the expense wizard is part of, well, actually, you can customize it in some aspects, but it comes like, it's kind of an embedded thing in CostPoint. And I'm trying to see if I will send them, if they can put their info in there, I'll send them more info on that one, because I can explain that better when I can show a bunch of things. And yeah.
Okay, great, thanks. Another question's come in asking if we have any canned demos or training that they can use and that can be sent out to their employees regarding time and expense.
So we do have, do we have canned demos and training? So we do have, and I'll show you just a quick example. So this is one, this is kind of one that we have one for expense. It's kind of a basic, and these are, realize ours are, what we have is we kind of have templates that can then be taken and customized to your organization. So we do have those. So this is kind of an example of a PowerPoint, for expense. And then we also have, desktop procedures that we can do. So, and the mechanism just depends on what the company wants to do. One thing I would add is that some of you, and I don't know if some of you may have heard that T&E 11, when it comes out, is going to have, kind of some different buttons and things like that, that it will have, and some of the screens will be a little different. One of the things that we've kind of promoted with our clients is doing the training so that they can be edited. And fairly easily, for things like that, so that you're not having to redo an entire training when stuff comes out. You can basically pull out the screenshots, adjust those, and everything like that. So.
Great, thank you. We had another question asking if they could get a copy of this presentation. We will make this available in the coming days, so please keep an eye out for a follow-up email with information regarding that presentation, as well as a link to view the on-demand recording of this webinar. So, got another question that's come in. It says that they've been using time and expense 10 for almost a year. The company employees are not happy. They say the version is not intuitive and user-friendly. They've talked to other users in the industry who have expressed the same concerns. Do we know if Deltek is working on making it any more user-friendly? And if so, when could we expect any updates on that?
So what I would tell you is that I know that in T&E 11, which is, they've been kind of doing previews of that. If you look at, if you're going to Deltek Insight, there's actually a few presentations that would be good for you to look at, because it talks about kind of the the time and expense, like the roadmap of where the application is going, you know, like what they're doing to improve it and things like that. So that would be probably, and I can like look, you know, at Insight so that you can kind of see more about what Deltek is doing to, you know, kind of answer some of those questions or things that people, you know, or how shall I say, issues or concerns people have with it.
Okay, another question, Susan. This person is asking about time and expense and if it can handle recording time in 15-minute increments. Right now they're saying that they try to put in 20.25 hours, basically a quarter of an hour, and it rolls up to 0.3 hours. They try to input 3/4 of an hour, it rolls up to 0.8. You have any insight into kind of putting that into 15-minute increments?
So that is actually a setting in the system. And that's actually in, you know, like that's a T&E 9, like it's in T&E 9 and T&E 10, but that's a setting where you tell the system when you configure it, how you want it to record, you know, how you want to record the hours, like what's the increments. So that's something that is something you can edit.
Another person is asking, using the mobile T&E app and kind of what's needed to be able to use that. And this company is mentioning that they host with NeoSystems.
So the mobile T&E app, there is another, basically it's kind of a separate implementation from a technical perspective, like it sits kind of, there's a whole kind of other piece to that. So, so you can go, you know, you can upgrade to T&E 10, you know, desktop, and then basically do the mobile kind of separately, if that makes sense. So that, I think that answers the question, but yeah, it's kind of a separate application kind of, or not application, I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. It kind of sits by itself, but anyway. There's actually, if you want to find out more specifically about, and I'm actually glad you said that, there is one of the documents out on the support site actually talks you through, and I'm trying to see if I have it. I don't have it on my desktop right now. But it actually, in that site that I was showing you, where it has all of these, there's an actual like mobile user guide, installation guide, like it talks through the technical piece of that and how that's different and things like that. So that might be one that you would want to go look at that's out on the site.
Okay, Susan, thank you. So there are no additional questions, and we are about 1 minute from the top of the hour, so I think we will go ahead and conclude the session. Susan, thank you very much for the presentation. That was very, very insightful, and I hope, ladies and gentlemen, you enjoyed that. If you have any additional questions regarding upgrading to Time and Expense 10, you can use that email address on your screen, te10@neosystemscorp.com. We'll be happy to follow up with you and answer any additional questions you have. So
Thank you.
thanks. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.